A friend of mine who shares my enjoyment of making things once spotted an impressive set of cosplay armor at an event. Being ever curious and always wanting to learn new techniques, she approached the cosplayer and asked a few questions about how the outfit was made. He was rather evasive in his answers, but she kept poking and prodding. He finally relented and admitted that the suit was a pre-made kit he bought. My friend must have looked visibly disappointed because the cosplayer then tried to desperately justify how much effort he still had to put in to assemble it all and make it fit him. Now, if your reaction to this anecdote is to think, what a snob, then first of all, fuck you. Secondly, it seems we may have another problem on our hands. This topic pops up all the time, and I agree with the myriad of voices that declare it doesn't matter whether or not you made your costume yourself. The idea of buying costumes is used as an insult and quite often directed at big name or simply popular cosplayers in the typical display of tall poppy syndrome. For example, Jessica Negri constantly gets accused of not making any of her own stuff, despite the deluge of work-in-progress photos she posts on various social media. And if she hasn't made something herself, she is always giving full credit to those who have helped her. That really is how it should work. Basically, it's used to shame cosplayers, and as someone who's a big proponent of making things, this disappoints me immensely. If we go back to the opening anecdote, we could make a couple of assumptions. Perhaps that cosplayer felt ashamed in not making his outfit himself. That's possible. Or it would be if he wasn't already telling others he bought a kit. Maybe that evasiveness was all about impressing my very attractive friend. Look, I wouldn't put it past some people. Cosplay is about expressing your love for a story or a character through costume. And that's pretty much it. There is really no need to go into any justifications as to why you had to buy something. It's not the point. Besides, this is ground myself and many others have covered over and over again. Instead, I think there is another problem that may need addressing. It's something we value, but we don't do enough to promote it. Honesty. I know, it's something we already should know, but we also know how stupid the masses can be, and sometimes we need to spell it out for them. The closest we get to it, though, is the idea of credit where it's due, i.e. giving credit to the people involved in creating the work on display, which is pretty much the same thing, but I personally think the lesson needs to be broader and simple so it can encompass more than just cosplay. Just be honest about your work. It's as simple as that. There is zero good reason to exaggerate or deceive others about your work, and yet some motherfuckers keep doing it. Most of these sad dropkicks lie about their work for personal gain. In certain cases, there are people who do so to drum up business, making promises and profit on the back of other people's work. There is a process called recasting where these scammers take someone else's prop, create a mold of it, and cast copies of said prop, selling them off and even undercutting the original maker. I'll include a link to a much more detailed discussion by Adam Savage and the Tested Boys in the description. A small business duo in Sydney were caught out recasting other people's work when a Power Rangers aficionado noticed that the helmets on display at their convention stall featured very sneaky markings by the original maker of the helmets. This led to other makers going back through their receipts, looking for things they had sold to this duo in the past, and finding them being sold on the scammer's website. They were also caught out 3D printing someone else's model of a Star Wars blaster, which the original modeler had provided for free to the community. She knew it was her model because their 3D prints featured the same flaw she forgot to remove before sharing it with other fans. They were selling these copies without her permission, and of course, without her sharing in any of the profits. Some pathetic saddos lie to achieve a certain type of reputation and status in their group or community. They enjoy the attention and kudos that accompanies such a status. Someone posted a photo of a costume in a group forum saying that it was going to be worn at the next event. He received a lot of praise and compliments on that post and thanked everyone. But the photo wasn't of him, nor was it of the actual costume he'd be wearing. It was simply the character he'd be portraying, but he never corrected anyone on it and proceeded to pretend that it was him. In very rare cases, these fuckknuckles put in some effort into their deceptions. One local saddo would often order his raw resin costume components from makers in the replica prop forum. For one of them, he made the order and proceeded to post fake build photos until it arrived and then went on to paint it. He got caught out by someone close to him, so he then changed the story to him trying to make it, but couldn't, so he ordered it at the last minute, which of course is still bullshit. It's not that these people are without any skill. I mean, it takes skill to create a silicon mold and recast copies. It's just that their level doesn't match the quality of work they pretend to be responsible for, nor are they willing to put in the effort to be that good. Sadly, some get away with it because they are capable of doing enough to fool the uninitiated. And even scarier, some people are just that good at lying. I'm willing to give some benefit of the doubt to those who may be using the wrong terminology because that can be confusing for people. But claiming to freehand a template is not the same as tracing a template. I can also understand that in the heat of the moment, we often forget details, but being honest about your work is so easy and quick to do. I made all the armor out of foam using templates I found online, and Mum made the vinyl undersuit because I suck at sewing. I made the helmet, found the jacket in an op shop, but I had someone make the cape for me. I found this trench coat which I dyed myself, but Mum altered it for me to match the movie. I built all this using measurements I took from the game model, but I still need a lot of help getting into it. See, it's so easy. It's much more difficult to lie, not just from a moral perspective, but even from a practical standpoint. The effort to keep up with all the tall stories is an effort I just can't fathom. Some people have actually questioned why this is a problem at all. What does it matter if a cosplayer tells a bit of a fib to a random at a con, for example? First of all, it's wrong. The fact that I have to point that out boggles my mind. It's not a harmless white lie. It's feeding someone false information. If they do that enough times, they develop a reputation they haven't earned. Some may even get cocky enough to start doing commissions, and that becomes false advertising because they don't have the skills to create the quality that the customer was expecting. I've even had a few numbnuts step up on stage in contests I've judged telling porkies. I'm always fortunate that I'm sitting with very perceptive and talented colleagues, and between us, we do pick up the inconsistencies. My number one rule, don't lie to me. There is no point because with communities this small, we always find out the truth. Let's put it this way. If the former head of the CIA, a man who deals with keeping secrets, couldn't keep his own adultery a secret, then what hope does anyone else have? And once you're found out, then everything you say from then on is put into question. Again, with how tightly knit these communities can be, is that really worth the risk? Why would anyone want to have anything to do with you if they can't trust you? So how does this tie into the campaigning surrounding making versus buying your cosplay? Well, it's important to get rid of the stigma associated with buying your costume because the hobby is simply about expressing yourself through costume. I love the making side of things because I love to make, and that's how I value it for me, but I don't think someone lesser for not making their stuff, as long as they are having harmless and honest fun. Good and decent people don't look for loopholes in being a good and decent person, but it needs to be coupled with lessons about being honest, because that encompasses so much more than just the hobby. It's not just about being honest about your cosplays, it's about instilling good values and morals that play a big part of the choices you make. When you encourage and promote positive values, it helps change communities for the better, as well as other aspects of life. No shame, no lies, no deceptions, just people having fun and being good to one another. Here endeth the sermon. Just a bit of housekeeping. When I began making these videos, I had also intended on making more than just these sermons. Over the next few months, I want to try and talk about some of the other things too. We'll see how I go, but of course, keep an eye out for them.